Everything happens for a reason, right?
That's exactly it.
Jeff, Pat, I was on the truck. The truck came here. Now you're here?
I was meant to have a meeting with Destiny.
Mom called. She's really pissed.
Jeff's stuck. Maybe you could get him moving.
Once again, I have to pick up your slack.
What is wrong with you? Why do you want to live like this? Drifting through this life with no awareness.
What are you talking about?
This feels like one of those, it should be some cutesy Disney trailer. Meet Jeff. He lives at home.
A Muppet sequel.
Now meet his brother.
I don't know how cute that could be, because right now I'm thinking about a handful of friends that I have that you can replace this title.
Oh no!
and it's kind of sad. You know?
Oh, you got to lose those friends, co-hosts. You know what? To me, this begs a question I never really thought about before. But does there exist a movie with Jason Segel where he doesn't play a man-child? Because I can't think of one.
No, it doesn't exist yet. Just yet. I'm sure one of these days, that performance is going to come out probably sooner than later. But because it's like, how many times can you play the same guy?
Yeah,
over and over. But this actually, his character in this reminded me more of like if Freaks and Geeks ever had a spinoff.
Okay,
this would probably be it.
It feels almost like this is a film that Jack Black turned down. For his role.
I mean, I guess maybe, because I was like, man, even in the Muppet movie, Jason Segel was kind of a man. He had that Arrested Development syndrome.
When you look at him, he's kind of puffy and goofy looking, and it's not like it's like top cop Jason Segel on the track of a serial killer.
No, but that's what makes it excellent casting, though.
I suppose so.
Everyone I know who lives at home is puffy. They look looking like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
They sit around in sweatpants all the time, down in the basement, smoking pot, jacking off the internet porn,
checking out Spill.com.
You guys know a little too much about this.
No. I'm just basing this off Jason Segel movies.
I'm just a profiler. That's all. Anyway, so Jeff Lives at Home is 2012 movie that is directed by the Duplass Brothers, Jay and Mark. Now, they were really kind of the founding guys for mumblecore movement.
Aren't they the kings of mumblecore?
But they've kind of moved away from it step by step as it gone on. It's like they've held on to aspects of it, which is those things that are more about doing sort of in-depth characters inside of stories, but they're moving into being a little bit more commercial friendly, or I would say a lot compared to where they started from, and where
enough.
Pretty much everyone else in the mumblecore industry is still doggy paddling.
Well, I guess they've done a good job of moving past it, but while still remaining true to their roots.
Yeah.
Like when the other guys like, you guys sold out. It's like, no, we got bigger stars, we got more money, but we're still doing pretty much the same thing.
Yeah,
you got to give it to us.
We never signed a Dogma 95 agreement.
Yeah.
This was just you guys are the ones who gave it a name.
I keep thinking
we were just broke.
Shaq always comes to mind whenever you guys bring that mumblecore term.
Shaq?
I never understood what the hell that was to begin with, but I mean, mumblecore is just shit that they make up right on the spot, or it's like...
No, not necessarily. It's one of those things, like, grew out of a lot of smaller towns, but Austin being one of them, where they just didn't have a lot of money to start with, so it kind of looked like stuff like Dogma 95. It's like no real big actors, very low budgets, all filmed on...
handheld cameras.
Yeah, handheld cameras, certain amount of improv, things like that. And generally speaking, the biggest problem with most of the mumblecore movement is next to no actual plots.
Yeah, it's true.
But that's not really the case here with Jeff Lives at Home. Jeff Lives at Home follows Jason Segel as Jeff. There you go, titular character, who indeed lives at home at his mother's house, played by Susan Sarandon, who stays busy at work pretty much all the time. She's got her own shit going on, but we'll get to her in a minute. He lives there. Jeff lives at home. He gets high a lot. He is obsessed with the movie Signs, which is a sign to the audience that this guy is a loser.
well, plus... That's the biggest sign that you are smoking too much pot.
Well, yes, it absolutely is. But he goes about his life like Dirk Gently, holistically detecting how one thing is connected to the next. Like, oh, that just happened, so I need to follow up on that thing because it must be a sign to tell me to go here. And this whole movie is him following this sign, mainly around the name Kevin, as he stumbles from one Kevin sign to the next.
Yeah, just so you guys know, he gets a phone call, a wrong number, somebody asking for Kevin, who yells at him, and then from there he goes like, Kevin, I have to find this.
This
Kevin.
must mean something.
It's like, wow.
And thank God he does, because it gets us the fuck out of his mom's basement.
True.
Yeah, otherwise we'd just be sitting there watching him play Mass Effect for
No, we'd be
2
watching
hours.
Signs.
I know. That's the next thing. He would start
This
watching
again.
that.
You're right. I'd rather watch him play Mass Effect. But so he leaves, and along the way, he ends up basically crossing paths with his own brother, Pat, played by Ed Helms, of course, known for The Daily Show and The Hangover and
The Office.
what have you in The Office. And Pat is a big douchebag. He's a self-involved jerk that is ruining his own marriage to Linda, played by Judy Greer, by just not even thinking through things. Like, he already knew she didn't want him to buy a Porsche that he's been needling her about for a while. And after fixing her a big dinner or big breakfast, he goes, "Oh yeah, I already bought it."
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing that he bought a Porsche, but they don't even live in a house. They live in an apartment, and he's out buying a car that costs more than a house would.
Oh my gosh. I got some good news, actually.
Yeah?
I got a phone call from Randy.
Is he the guy that we talked to at that barbecue?
Oh no, that's a different Randy.
But that guy's name was Randy, right?
Yes,
I liked his wife.
different Randy.
We should have them over.
Yeah. This is Randy at Millennium Porsche. Can I tell you something? With no money down, this thing is practically free.
Pat!
Wait, just
No.
okay. Well. You don't just start
That's
with
what
no.
this is.
Don't start with no. You're just like in this mindset, and you're not
It's
even.
not a mindset. We don't have the money.
Yeah, that's the mindset I'm talking about.
Honey, look, I'm trying to be like really careful, and I've cut back on some things, and like we promised we were gonna get a house this year, and I'm just trying to be a grown up about this.
Surprise.
So you see things from her point of view easily.
Yeah,
Right.
you can't help it.
It's not
like,
one of
man, you're eating like Nighthawk dinner, and you're riding around a Porsche. All right.
It's not one of those films where you're irritated at the harridan of a wife.
No.
She's got a very good reason to be pissed
Oh,
at this.
absolutely.
Guy who's, even though he looks at himself as like an up-and-comer, or, a guy who's got a big future ahead of him, the truth is he's in many ways just as big a loser as Jeff is.
Absolutely.
And just as self-deluded. And as they meet, it ends up being a situation where Jeff is reluctantly helping Pat find out if his wife is cheating on him or not with a coworker, which it looks like maybe she is, as they sort of track her down, follow her trail, while Jeff the whole time gets distracted here and there with further signs.
It's almost like you want to go, Jeff, stay on target. Then you look at what the target is. It's like, you know what, Jeff, it takes some time to do whatever you want to do.
I know. It's like, I already know how that target's gonna play out. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, why not? Let's go have adventures with Jeff. Yeah.
Meanwhile, this whole time, in a subplot that kind of comes into the main story, I felt if there's a weak point, it's that the subplot never really feels to completely connect with everything else. Is that Susan Sarandon, the mom of these two boys, is working at her office job, and someone is anonymously sending her messages of love.
Yeah,
and
secret
affection.
admirer.
And she's decided that she's too washed up and old for anybody to be interested. But as her day goes on, she's slowly starting to come to terms that maybe she does have someone that might actually think she's got something left in her. That would be me, by the way, Susan. I'm here for you.
I know. There's a moment in this movie where I was like, "Oh wow, Susan Sarandon! I haven't seen her in a while, and she's not looking so bad." And as the movie progressed, I'm like, she's starting to look really hot for some reason.
I kept thinking that too, because I remember back when people were making a big deal, like, she's that older woman who still looks hot. There came a point where I was just like, well, yeah, for a while, but you know what, guys, she is starting to look her age. Y'all still carried on because you're used to it. But seeing her in this, I was like, damn, she's looking really good.
All right, she is 65 years
Yeah.
old. Maybe,
Wow.
maybe
Okay, well,
64 when they filmed this. And first thing I thought was, somebody has a really great plastic surgeon, because she looks like she's 47, maybe.
She does, and the thing was, and she doesn't look surgeryed up.
No,
she
not
doesn't
at
have
all.
pumped
No,
up
no.
lips. She does, none of the things that go with that.
No, if you guys had if one of your moms had a really hot friend and this was her, I would do everything I could to try to bang her. To be dirty.
Yeah, you'd be going on milfhunter.com.
Why is it got to be one of our moms?
Well, that's all part of the fun. Sorry.
get to tease you about being your stepdad.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm having seizures.
Carlos, what are you doing? You shall refer to me as father. from now on.
or daddy.
What a terrifying development.
Exactly.
Yes, it is.
Nightmarish.
But this film, I felt like this was a big step up. I think the last thing they did was that one with Ben Stiller. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't like the sound of this already.
Greenberg, I believe, was it?
No, that wasn't
Was that
Greenberg.
not?
No, because that was the guy who did.
I'm sorry, Cyrus.
Yeah, Cyrus. I love Cyrus.
Yeah.
No, it was the guy who did the Shark and the Whale. What's something?
Yeah, you're right. It was not. It was not
Now-
that.
now
Even though that had
on
that
it.
same type of feel to it.
Yeah.
It was Cyrus, with Jonah Hill and John C. Reilly.
That's what I thought.
Which I liked as well. I thought that was a big step in the more commercial, but in not losing the things that made people feel affectionate for their origins as well. I think this continues that, really. If anything, there's a weakness to this film. It's that it's kind of uncertain in its middle. It just sags a bit. It's just kind of meandering about, looking to get to its ending. But once everything comes together, you go, oh, okay. Well, yeah, you could have trimmed 20 minutes or so from that middle, but the ending does leave you with a sense of, okay, that was satisfying, and I feel like that was worth it.
To me, the thing about this movie is, even though I liked it, whenever I thought about these guys who made Cyrus, that's when I was like, yeah, I don't like this near as much as that. Cyrus was like in my top 10 or top 15 movies of that year. It came out. Shut up. Movies.
You should drop it.
And I felt like Cyrus was more focused. I had a better feel for those characters. It was funnier. It was uncomfortable. Where this had an idea, but it didn't feel focused. It kind of floated, sort of like Jeff. Like it could have gone either way, and where it ended up, I didn't mind it, but I wasn't in love with it. Especially the Susan Sarandon subplot. I was kind of like, the big reveal, I felt like is easily guessable. And then it's not a whole lot done with it after that.
Yeah, it is, and that's the one thing that kind of derailed me while watching this was the Susan Sarandon subplot, which you're right, it is completely predictable. I mean, you can't help but know where that's going, and it's just not all that interesting whenever they cut back to it. The more interesting thing about this film is the relationship between the brothers, which I really enjoyed. I mean, this to me felt like just a kind of like a typical indie movie that definitely has its moments where the characters, Jason Segel and Ed Helms, where their performances I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed the hell out of them, especially Ed Helms, where, to me sometimes I get worried about that guy playing the same character from The Office.
Yeah.
With this, I was really surprised at how great of an asshole that he can play. Especially when he's not even self-aware, where he's just running his mouth. He's that guy who, he has such a loser brother that it gives him like this sense of like, shut up, I know more than you, look at me and look at you, type deal. And I really loved how that dynamic played out. And you can't help but really like Jason Segel's character as the movie goes on, where you're like, man, this guy is like a real fucking loser. I hope I don't end up like that someday. But
but he has a good heart.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like his heart is in the right place. And it definitely made for a fun, interesting movie. But yeah, I mean, it like I said, every once in a while it teeters into a point where you're like, okay, this little odd moment they're trying to have with his character, they need to leave that alone. There's a lot of moments where you're just like, okay, don't get too wrapped up in this because it's not all that interesting.
Well, I think Jason Segel here, if anything, reminded me of what's his name in I Love You Man, Paul Rudd, in that he's this character who's got a lot of irritating things about him, and he really is a loser. But as you get to know him, you warm to him, and by the end, you're actually feeling quite affectionate for him. You're like, ultimately, this is a good guy who just hasn't figured out how to have like a productive life. Really,
well, it's funny how much he is like his character in I Love You Man, except that character, I don't know, was more irritating. Where this one is more lovable. You're right. When this first started, I was like, oh, goddamn, I hate Jeff. I hate him already. It's two frames in.
Stay at home.
Yeah. But yeah, the longer it went on, and it wasn't simply just in contrast to his brother, but that contrast does, show you in stark reality, what Jeff does have going for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, you genuinely start to like Jeff, and you pull for him, and, they pull something off at the end that I normally see in 100 movies, know how it's going to go, and I'll be damned if they didn't get me to where I was just like holding my breath, like, oh shit.
Yeah, that was the most impressive part about the movie. Where, it is something where you're like, okay, this is another. It's another route where you're like, okay, this seems all familiar, but I mean, it made sense. It made sense within this movie, and it just worked. To my surprise, it really worked.
Because ultimately, this is about these characters, the three primary characters, going through growth and change. I mean, less so Jeff, I think, than the other ones.
Right.
Who, in Jeff's mind, I think he feels like, well, I was right all along. But you were talking about Ed Helms and being so great in here, and I agree, because we're seeing this guy go through a pretty drastic change. Here's a guy who's convinced that he's not an asshole, having to come to terms with the fact that, oh shit, I am an asshole, and having to basically make, reparations to the people he's hurt in his life with that. And Ed Helms sells what could have just been trite. He really sells it here. I think when it all comes together in the end, which is very much a heightened, dramatic moment, you are with them. You're going, oh, what's going to happen here? This is one of those type of movies that feels like it could do whatever. You don't even know. It's not following by the basic Hollywood rules. So it could go way off kilter and do something really tragic, or who knows. As far as the Susan Sarandon thing goes, the problem with that, it's the economy of characters. Right. You're like, well, you've only introduced us to one other character in this story, so who the fuck else is it going to be?
And that's where I was like, really? You could have thrown a little bit more red herrings in there or something?
Yeah, it's almost frustrating that she herself doesn't even, clue into it. You're like, you're not even going to consider that? That would be one of like the top 3 people, I would think.
I thought that was just due to her old age. I'm like, hey, you really are old.
I would like to be the first to volunteer to say, I would like to see what happens next.
It sucks because we can't even mention.
I know, we can't mention who it is.
Because I would love I would love just to bring up who it is, because it's like, wow, where in the hell has that person been?
Yeah, very true. I don't know. I found that I like this film more than it deserves credit for liking, because like I said, it's got that subplot that's next to useless, except that we always love seeing Susan Sarandon, and it is an up close and personal chance for her to almost perform by herself for a good 20 minutes of this film or so, and she's good in it. Like, she's good in everything, and like we mentioned, I don't know what she did, but she made a deal with some Asmodeus or something, but she looks hotter than she has in years. And then, like I said, in the middle, it just kind of, there's a point where you're like, as much as I'm enjoying seeing these two actors work together, the plot just seems to be just kind of sitting there waiting for something else to happen. And I was like, all right, you're going to lose me if you don't do something here with this quickly. But it does eventually come back together. And maybe you're right. Maybe it isn't as good as Cyrus. It's been a while since I've seen Cyrus. And admittedly, I had so many people going, hey, you seen Cyrus yet, Cyrus? That I think I just kind of swept that one out of the corners of my mind. But I really like this. Didn't love it, but really liked it enough to give it a strong matinee.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've gone over this pretty much. It is a likable movie despite itself. I just felt like it was light on plot, at least what they came up with. It's like they had an idea and they kind of knew where to go with it, but not enough to fully flesh it out. And with Susan Sarandon, rather than that whole subplot, something that actually tied into the boys better, stronger, I think would have been a much better way to go. Because, I mean, there is somewhat of an explanation of why the two of them are so fucked up, but I would have liked a little more, just see some more insight in how, she plays into that with them. But, that's not the movie they made. Based on the movie they made, I like it, but didn't love it. And I wish there was more about it to love, but I give my hats off to them for what they pulled off with the ending. So I give it more of a low matinee.
Yeah, for it being the life and times of Jeff, this little slice of life, where it's like, I'm glad that they went somewhere with it to where it was fun. For me, I was really surprised because there are moments in there where it's like, okay, wow, I hope this doesn't really start to drag out, and they'll introduce some quirky characters and then they'll just leave them alone, and then we'll go right into some other people. I'm glad that they did focus mostly on the relationship with the two brothers, and especially with Ed Helms having to his dealings, his marital problems, which the one playing his wife
Judy
I thought
Greer.
she was great. Yeah. I mean, you can't help but like when you see her face on the screen and what she has to deal, you cannot help but sympathize for that poor woman. Where I'm like, how in the fuck did you get in this position? Wow. But yeah, I mean, it was a surprisingly fun movie, even though it does have its flaws. But I kind of like these type of movies that come out of nowhere. I had no idea what to expect. So I'm gonna give it a matinee easily.
The one thing I was just thinking of this as you were talking was that, like, while you see all the other characters really go to a new height in their lives, like an improved level, Jeff is still living at home.
That's true. That is the one thing I thought. I was like, you know what? For all he did and all this, what happens next Tuesday?
Cocoa Pebbles and signs.
Hey, it stays true to its story. Because all those guys, those motherfuckers are still living at home. They tell me about all their adventures, and they're nowhere near as interesting as this movie.
The sequel is Jeff ain't going nowhere.
Just did.
Isn't the most important thing finding someone who sees you exactly as you are?
Yeah.
I just want to feel that we both want to, be in love. I want it so bad.
Dude, you need to say that to her. Hey, look out! Tree!
Stay in the car.
I am fine. Yes, thank you for asking.
Good.